We're here this morning on a busy morning. Every morning's a busy morning at Macca Lodge with one half of the wonderful duo behind Macca Lodge with Sheree McIntyre. So Sheree, how did you get involved in the breeding industry?
It was a funny story, Charlotte, and Elsa may have alluded to it. We were actually sheep and beef farming down near Invercargill, and Brent's always loved horses and always trained, and his family trained, and Kane wanted to come home on the farm, but we didn't have enough acres to support two families, and so we were looking around for other options. They didn't want to go dairying, and about 2 days later there was a program on Elsa and Charlie moving on our local Southland channel at that stage that Tom Conroy did, and I jokingly said to Brent, we should buy that, and walked away. I'd never said anything, and it was right before Easter, and he came back to me a day later, said, you know how you said we should buy that? He said, well, we go and have a look. So we did. Came up, had a look round, had Easter to think about it, and then decided that we would go for it, and then had to go, with Charlie. He sent people out to make sure that we could afford it, which is fair enough. And we had, from the time we made that decision till we signed the papers and took over, was 6 weeks. We sold a farm. We had to sell it 3 or 4 different blocks because it was all in different divisions. It was actually fairly stressful, but here we are 13 years later, I think it is now. So yes, so it was a huge shock. The house where we came from at Tussock Creek, it was over 100 years old. It had been in Brett's family farm forever. And his parents were really, really good about us selling the family farm and moving up here. And coming to Elsa and Charlie's house, I kept waiting for someone to knock on the door and said, right, go home now, you've had your fun.
That's a huge lifestyle change, and yes, I caught up with Elsa and Charlie yesterday, and it's alluded to that. So with the big lifestyle change, you guys are now the biggest base pretty south of the Waitaki for the mares. So how many mares will you have through the property approximately this season?
About 600. Yes.
Massive. So it's a mix of sport horses and standard breds, but predominantly standard breds.
Yes, predominantly standard breds, and we actually do get the odd galloper and just foaling. So we do that, but it seemed to be getting more and more sport horses towards the end of the season as well, so they're a different kettle of fish as well.
And the standard breds certainly keep you busy, and you're not just the base for foaling and breeding and year-round adjustment, you also have a couple of stallions on the books as well.
Yes, we do. We have Raging Bull and Net 10 still here, and On Solitaire that we do for harassed trotters, plus we also have the Frozen Seaman for Feather Dragon. So
a lovely collection, and Mac's just taking me around the paddocks, and I've got some beautiful hopefully nice photos, but seen some beautiful animal progeny of those stallions, and we'll put them up on the Standard Bred Breeders Facebook page. And the Southland is a really good, just with the start a little bit later down here, of breeding later.
That's right.
So you'd encourage people to keep going and still taking mares?
Yes, we do. Yes, and the thing is, down here we can't start as early as up north, even though some of the stud owners would like us to, solely because even if we did have the right heat and the right sunshine to get them ovulating, we don't have the feed for them till later because we're way behind with the weather, of course, through the winter. So, but we normally breed right through till the stallions will mostly leave end of January, but we actually bred right through to the middle of February last year, just with our own ones and the sport horses. And a lot of people say if you're selling for the sales, you need to have an early foal, but I think as the stallions are becoming more and more, I call it refined, someone's actually said the other day they think they're getting more like thoroughbred stallions, getting prettier. I don't think it makes too much difference, really. I suppose it does depend on the size, and a lot of people would argue with me about that. But I've also seen some pretty stunning foals born later that it made no difference to them when they were born. And of course, with the change of birthday now, and it depends, are you breeding for Australia or are you breeding for America? If you're breeding for America, it doesn't matter.
No, it certainly opened everything up. So whilst you're looking after a huge amount of the Southlanders and owners from all around New Zealand with the McIntyre base, you're also rather large breeders yourselves.
Yes.
So how many foals are you expecting or may already have in total this season, and how many are you looking to breed?
Okay. Well, we breed far too many, and I remember when we came here, Owen Crooks gave us a word of advice because he was our stud master for the first couple of years. He said, you'll be offered lots of mares, but don't take them. You don't need too many. Well, we're expecting 24 foals this year, and we're breeding 29.
Goodness me. So, nice mix of stallions.
Yes, there is. We because we have Feather Dragon and On Solitaire and Raging Bull, we like to support them. So we breed quite a few to them, but we also put a few to down by the seaside this year and Better's Wish, mainly because last year most of them were always been Mickeys, so we've pulled away from that and trying something new as well. So we like to sort of support, sometimes stallions don't get a go much, so but although down by the seaside's going really well this year. So
Yes.
but we've got one going to the Storm side and just little ones like that just to try and help them out and support them.
Fantastic. And you guys certainly have never been afraid of giving a new season sire a go, and
No.
your knowledge of what's happening around Australia and what's happening in America is second to none. So talking about Australia, the McIntyre brand has been going quite nicely recently.
Yes, it has. It's been really lovely. We sold Born to Boogie to Merv Butterworth, and it raced here for a while, and it's now gone to Perth. We sold Belle Catherine out of here. I think she was a yearling or a 2-year-old. She'd only had one go at the races. And Queen Shenandoah we sold at the sales to Graham Rogerson. And funnily enough, they've all ended up in Perth, and all three of them raced in the Mare Classic the other night, and didn't win, but another New Zealand horse did, so that was great, and managed to get second, third and fifth placings. So when we're also a share in Manhattan in Christchurch, and that one on Friday night, and our syndicate horse won on Saturday at Geraldine, so it was a huge weekend.
You're having a fantastic run. Now, so
Yes.
touching on syndicates,
Yes.
you've gone and set up a lovely woman in racing kind of syndicate, and I also touched on that last night with me, and she said that how wonderful it is to get new people involved and have someone that knows what they're doing to kind of be the team leader. So take us through your syndicates you've set up.
Well, the one we've just formed, and it's I'm a bit worried about these girls because this was only their second time to the race and they won, and a lot of them are first time and they think this is easy. So I've had to explain to them that some people can go 20 years and are never lucky enough to have a winner, so enjoy it. But this syndicate is actually all my family. How it started was when Quinn, my oldest boy, who's 40 now, was 21. All my family live in the North Island or Australia, and they all came home for his 21st. And the night before it, the men decided they would go to a goon meeting, which for those of you who are too young and don't know what a goon meeting is, they go and drink the big Peters out of the crates. And us women didn't think this was fair, so we called ourselves the Goonettes and decided we'd have our own meeting. So we had cocktails and all sorts of things, and we have carried that on, so that's been going for 19 years. And every time the family can get together, we have our Goonette meeting, and we do some very odd things, and the men think it's hilarious. We wear tea cozies and play silly games and have a theme and dress up, but it is a lot of fun. So in this syndicate, there's my two sisters, one in Australia, one in Tauranga, my sister-in-law in Australia, my daughter Lauren, who's here, and my daughter-in-law in Hawea Flat, and another daughter-in-law who lives on the stud with us, plus my two nieces in Australia. Plus we have an honorary member, which is my granddaughter, but she's only 7, so she's more the mascot. But and my mum was the patron of the Goonette Club, but she passed away, so being the oldest, that's now passed to me. So we decided that we would get a horse, and we've been trying for a year or two, and to be fair, I'm not successful at picking horses, and so the boys have told me to butt out and leave it to them. And so they chose this one we're racing called Redneck Woman. We named it that after the Gretchen Williams song because we're all great country music fans. And yeah, she won on Sunday and it was a lot of fun, and we all celebrated where we could in Australia and New Zealand, and we had Chinese and a bottle of champagne.
Good on you, that's brilliant. And
But it's just about trying to encourage them. And then when I've had friends hear about this syndicate, they've said, oh, we'd be quite keen to have a syndicate. So I'm going to pass the running of the Gurnett Syndicate to my daughter Lauren, and now form another one of my friends, and some of the mothers of the daughter-in-laws want to be in it. And there's only 2 criteria. They've got to be able to have fun, and they're not allowed to be negative. Oh, and they've got to wear a hat if we get to the races.
I love it. That's absolutely outstanding, and that's actually a brilliant motto to have anyway with racehorses, because you need to celebrate the wins, celebrate the losses, and just roll with the punches. So that sounds like the most wonderful syndicate, and I hope you guys keep having some great success. And
thank you.
Touching on success, what would you say were some of the top horses that you and Macca have bred?
Well, going back quite a while, Bonnie Lass, and she was a family favourite. She was like another one of the family, and she won 10, and she was just a lovely horse. And we still use her now. She's not breeding, but if we have a foster foal that we can't get a mother for, she takes them. She lets them suckle her and everything, even though she's got no milk. And we just think it's good to teach them to be a horse. And so she's still doing that role. We actually nearly sold her, and about 2 days before she was due to go, I went down to the box and I come back crying and said, you can't sell her. So I had to ring the agent and tell him, who didn't speak to us for a few years. But anyway, he's now given us, actually we're also doing Captain Midnight's semen down here in the South Island, so he's obviously got over it, John.
Oh, those good horses, they do become part of the family.
They do, yeah. And some of the later, we had Jamie as well that we brought off Tuapeka Lodge, Father Dan, and we had to be vetted to have that horse because they didn't just give their horses to anyone. So we won 6 or 7 with her, although she hasn't left much as a broodmare, but we're hoping her progeny will. And latterly, of course, we've got Belle Catherine and Shenandoah and a few other ones that we've sold. But we've also had, we had one called Levi Jade, who was out of Fantastic, went to Australia, plugged away at the country circuit, and he's won $180,000, just little ones like that. And he was named after our nephew, so that was pretty special. And they're all pretty special, but when you sell them at the sales, you don't tend to have the same sort of bond. So that's why I really like that a lot of them we keep and put through the chaff cutter ourselves, and we tend to go through them. And this year, for the first time ever, because we had so many foals and we knew that a few of them weren't going to be suitable for the sales, we put them all on Gavel House. I think we put 12 up and sold 10 of them. The young chap from Australia that's got Jamie Durford, whatever his name is, he brought all the feather dragons, and people brought the raging bulls and things, and we didn't sell them for huge amounts of money, but for us it's about getting them out to trainers, to other people, and people can see them and say, well, this is a nice horse, or a trainer might give them a good rap, and then people will come back hopefully and have a look and see what else we've got. So
yeah, and that's a very very sensible model, and one that a lot of the other big studs also apply, is getting those first season, second season sires out and about into the trainers' hands, and let them have a feel and start spreading the positive word. So you also touched on the yearling sales. You're taking a few through to the February sale? Yes,
we are. We've got about 7 or 8 of them going through. So I don't go to the yearling sales. Believe it or not, it sounds absolutely dreadful, and in no way am I a poor sport, but you know how your horse doesn't get a bid and you think, well, what's wrong with my horse? So it's easier if I stay at home and help Kane and we send Brent. Brent gets annoyed because I ask him so many questions.
Yeah, the sales can be a very trying process for some along the way, but
yeah. But no, so yeah, they're going, and we're always hopeful that, you know, people are going to like them, and Cam's been down and inspected them and passed them all as ready to go, so that's the main thing, and yeah.
So if you were looking back to you and Mac 13 years ago before you took on this beast, and you probably didn't imagine it was going to be the beast that it's turned into,
right.
What would the advice that you'd give yourselves now?
Probably don't. Well, coming into a business, of course, every little thing that went wrong, you'd panic and you'd think, oh my God, what are we going to do, and that sort of thing. But I think if you just stay positive, you've got to be positive in this game. If you're not positive, don't be in it. You know, like, you've got to have the dream, you've got to be positive. And probably because it has built up gradually, it hasn't been the huge shock that if we'd stepped straight into this, it would have been. But no, just treat your clients right the best you can. Treat them how you'd like to be treated, and be honest and open with them, I think, is the best way to be. So even if it's bad news and you don't like making those phone calls, it's just a fact of life. So mainly it's been a huge learning curve for me, because I used to panic if there's a problem foaling and the vet had to be called, and I'd pace up and down at home because I couldn't watch until they come and told me the outcome. And so over the years I've learned not to get hard, but just to take it in my stride, I suppose. And yeah.
Very, very sound advice, and you know, as you've touched on, there's highs and lows with this industry, and especially on the breeding side, and we all wish we had a crystal ball. It's not always there, but yeah, thank you to you and Macca for the great job and your team do down in Southland. It's a huge service. There isn't very many places, hardly any now these days, and so you have taken a huge load on, and you do make a pivotal part of this stud season down here. So almost done with the foaling. So
yes, 80 to go about approximately. I just had a count up, 192 so far. So
there is light at the end of the tunnel.
But there is still more horses coming through the gate. So I'll never forget you. One year we'd foaled the last horse, and we were having a glass of wine to celebrate with lunch. And we'd just about finished the bottle and then arrived with a float, and Robert Wilson dropped a mare off to foal. So never say never.
Well, best of luck for the rest of the season, and thank you for your time.
No worries.